So guys, let's talk about the llama in the room here. The Spring Leg Medallion just dropped with Chapter 6 Season 4, and right now it's warping the entire meta. I don't say nerf this casually, I say it because the power is obvious here, and one item that is deciding matches, POIs, and other player behavior just has to go. Today we're going to walk through exactly what the Spring Leg Medallion does, why it's so broken, what the community thinks, and how it's wrecking the map flow, and the realistic fixes that Epic can deploy while preserving the fun while restoring the balance. And first off, for Fortnite Chapter 6 Season 4, Fortnite introduced 3 new medallions this season. The medallions are earned by defeating the queen bugs at the specific POIs like the Hive. This season there are 3 major medallions: the Spring Leg, the Surge, and the Carapace medallions. Each give a unique perk, movement, speed, or health regen and utility, and they're all tied to these boss fights that are at fixed locations around the map. Picking up one of these medallions grants exclusive powers that continue to trend in Fortnite's design since the start of Chapter 5. The Spring Leg itself gives double jump plus fall damage immunity, and that simple duo turns verticality into a myth. If you have the Spring Leg medallion equipped, you can reposition yourself mid-air during a fight and dodge lines of fire like you're not even playing the same game. Combine that with the other mobility boosts that we have in this current season and the other exotics, and the Spring Leg holder isn't just mobile, they're effectively untethered. The Spring Leg medallion drops from the queen at Demon's Debris, which is that big central POI where Daigo used to be. The Surge and Carapace medallions are at the respective Hive locations as well, but the geographic concentration is what matters here. One POI being the only place to realistically get the single most impactful medallion in the game is a design decision that pushes every match toward that spot. It funnels players and creates predictable choke points, and that's not really a good thing in this situation. The first big impact is the drop meta that changes entirely. In a balanced season, you have players split across POIs on the map, but with the Spring Leg in play, the rational behavior is to drop a Demon's Debris so that you can fight for the medallion. This means lobbies are condensed, fights are messy, and the early game becomes a literal single POI lottery. We've already seen posts complaining that nearly every solo lobby turns into a stampede to the same POI, and the evidence is in the community threads. People are literally saying it's the only objective that matters, but there's also a clear split in the community sentiment, as some players are calling the Spring Leg insane and love the new mobility. However, many more players are furious because one player per match is getting this and creates an unfair dynamic. Reddit threads and early comment sections on gameplay videos are literally littered with players saying medallions are unhealthy and that the item functions like an instant best player booster instead of a strategic power. And that's kind of a problem here because Fortnite's core loop depends on multiple viable strategies and not just a single dominant path that a subset of streamers and creators kind of like myself that enjoy farming highlight reels from medallion plays. But when it comes to content creation incentives that are conflicting with balance issues, you get kind of a mismatch. It's fun to watch, but it's not really fun to play against. What makes the Spring Leg medallion arguably worse, aside from its exclusive verticality, is the synergy from the Swarm Strike rocket launcher that can one-shot people from angles that aren't counterable by standard play. Putting these two things together, it's not just strong, it's a meta definer that's dangerous for longevity and competitive integrity itself. If you keep running into Spring Leg medallion holders, you can do a couple things, but my favorite move to counter somebody using the Spring Leg is to get them in close quarters areas like the bunkers and try to use the Swarm Strike rocket launcher to deal area damage to get them out. But outside of that kind of counterplay, there are some fixes that I can think of right off the top of my head that Fortnite needs to do in order to make some kind of action in balancing out the new season's loot pool. They could easily add a cooldown to the double jump, which is not a complete removal, just a delay between the jumps that keeps the flavor but reduces the spammable air dodging, which is also kind of a low risk and immediate change. They could also make the Spring Leg a common power in the loot pool. If more players can get it, then that kind of stops a single player runaway advantage and becomes a more tactical options across squad play as well. They could also balance the other medallions upward. Right now the Surge and Carapace kind of feel like side grades. If Epic bumps up their utility like longer slides, better passive regen, or a minor damage bonus, players have alternatives that don't revolve around Spring Leg. They could also increase the threat level of the area around. If getting the medallion requires more time, team effort, or resource investment, it becomes less safe to farm and less central of an early game route. And finally, they could also just initiate a 1 medallion per player rule. And just a note on the design point here, items that define the meta should be rare, but not exclusive in a way that breaks the decision space. Good loot design creates choices. Do I risk going to Demon's Debris for medallion, or do I play for rotation? If one choice is always strictly better, then the map loses its depth. Epic needs to preserve the emergent choices, not stomp them out, and that starts with not letting a single pickup decide matches. Anyway, that's really all I've got for today, guys. Drop a comment, hit that like button, sub to the channel, and thanks for watching.